Well, as I sort of said in an earlier broadcast, it's spring. The swallows are returning to Capistrano, and the chickens are coming home to roost. This week, Victoria and Saanich councils announced their property tax increases for the year, and it's 5 point something or other in Victoria, and I think it is seven and change in Saanich. And that is consistent, of course. It's consistently 200 to 300% of the inflation rate, which is how these councils and all other councils in BC and probably across Canada have been budgeting for the last many years. It's just that, as I said earlier to Sydney Council, the effect of inflation now is creating very steep slopes on a mountain in which the taxpayer is expected to ski up it, not down it. And the steeper the slope, the slower the progress the taxpayer will be able to make, and the more energy the taxpayer is going to have to expend just to move another yard forward. Now, in the Victoria Council, according to press reports, when they finally debated their budget, put it to bed, only one councillor, Mark Gardner, who, in the interest of transparency, was an original grumpy taxpayer, raised the thought that the council should be focusing on cutting costs rather than simply cutting the size of the increase they were going to propose. Well, that didn't go over too well, which is a real shame. Now, to their credit, however, as Andrew Duffy's excellent report made clear, they did spend quite a lot of time on a medium long-term goal that Victoria has to narrow the difference between commercial, industrial, land tax and residential tax. Their eventual goal is to go from nearly four times, a factor of 4 for the commercial, industrial, and 3 for residential, to get them closer together. And that's laudable. But it's not enough. The debate at the Victoria Council, as everywhere, seems to suggest that there are two taxpayers. There are people in houses, and then there are businesses and commercial enterprises. I mean, we live in the Saanich Peninsula, the industrial group in North Saanich. That's 55% of everything manufactured in a city of 460,000 people. It's hugely important to the community. And anyway, the debates are as if businesses paid taxes. Please, the members of the Victoria Council, hold the same debate again, but on the basis that only people pay taxes. Businesses are tax collectors. By virtue of being in business, they collect taxes from their customers for 3 levels of government. No one can argue they shouldn't do that. But don't have the tax policy debate as if somehow businesses, when they form, pay taxes out of their equity. It doesn't happen. And so if I look at the most recent outcome of the debate in Victoria, here's what I would say. The council decided to impose a somewhat lesser tax on shoppers than they did last year. They did not impose a somewhat lower tax on businesses. It's the shoppers that are paying for that. It's the shoppers. It's the clients of people in high-rise buildings in downtown Victoria. It's the restaurateurs. It's their customers. And it's disappointing. So that leads me to one last comment. And that is, I've always said, municipal budgeting, it appears for most councils, I don't want to put them all in the same basket, is more like kabuki theater than it is like budget making. Classically, the staff propose budget for the next year. The council but basically say, oh, we can't do that. In the case of Victoria, it was a 13% tax increase would have been required to cover all the costs. Oh, we can't have that. So then councils go into apoplexia, pretend apoplexia, and then they declare triumph when the tax increase is only 7 point X percent which is a modest 200% of the inflation rate. We got to stop doing this. We, as taxpayers, deserve full budget transparency, an open debate, and of course, in the greater Victoria area, we've got a whole other non-level of government to contend with, the CRD, which seldom, if ever, appears at any municipal council table. Oh, I have to say the same is true for the school boards, but it's just so disappointing to go through another election cycle, another budget cycle, especially these days, John. We are in one heck of a mess globally.
Yes.
And Greater Victoria is a very externally focused economy.
Yeah.
The livelihood of every family in Victoria, in Greater Victoria, depends on global conditions and the ability of brilliant companies and organizations. I mean, look at you, Vic and Camosa. These are great organizations that adapt and adjust their procedures and their products to generate as much wealth as possible for this community. Anyway, please, only people pay taxes. Treat businesses as tax collectors, which means, by the way, you've got to listen to them about business conditions, about peace and order downtown or whatever. One further thought. We did an analysis last year of all 160 municipalities, 161 municipalities in British Columbia, using a methodology adopted by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. And if you compare the tax on commercial industrial land and the tax on residents, it's a bit of a broad stroke, but if you do that, of the 13 municipalities in Greater Victoria, 7 are in the top 10 worst municipalities from a business-friendly point of view, looking at the tax regime. This has got to be reversed. We all depend on the success of businesses. And we've got to do more than we're doing.